How does an ordinary guy from the suburbs of Tokyo go on to be considered with the likes of Dr. Dre, Q-Tip, and Reza as one of the greatest hip-hop producers of all time?
This is my homeboy, Nujabes.
One of the sickest producers I've ever heard.
How does a producer whose work and influence inspired a whole subgenre of hip-hop end up as someone few have ever heard of? This is the incredible story of Nujabes, a story of an innovative producer who helped shape hip-hop. A story that begins in the year 1994. In 1994, a 20-year-old guy named Jun Yamada had a fateful encounter with prominent DJ and music compiler Hashimoto Toru. He was the author of Suburbia Suite, a magazine that highlighted music that was currently trending in the suburbs of Tokyo. And this music-loving 20-year-old guy named Jun Yamada asked Hashimoto-san if he could be a writer for the next edition of Suburbia Suite. But in 1996, when this edition was released, the name that was credited on the magazine wasn't Jun Yamada. Instead, he had chosen to go by the name Jun Seba.
My name's Nujabes. If you don't mind, we'd like to play something for you.
This is a story 15 years in the making.
Now, Nujabes was a producer. That's the guy who makes the beats. And the thing with producers is, you gotta have rappers. And Nujabes worked with a ton of them. But how did a guy from Japan meet a bunch of international artists?
The one thing I know is that we met in Tokyo.
The next station is Shibuya.
This is my home away from home. I got love for Tokyo. All right, let's go, John. We're gonna get into it. Y'all ready? Yeah.
The question I always get asked is how did things happen with Japan? What happened was while I was in college, there was a brother whose rap name is Sphere of Influence. His older brother, a rapper by the name of Zero, was like the #1 rapper in Japan. He was actually interning for Nujabes. He worked at Nujabes' store in Shibuya, Tokyo called Guinness Records. So Nujabes asked him, he's like, man, you know of any tight MCs in New York right now? Looking for some people to work with. He said, man, you better get little man staying. My man staying nice. So he ended up playing the mixtape. John liked it, was interested. He gave John my number. He didn't contact me to tell me that someone would be contacting me. The phone rings. I pick up the phone. Hello? And I hear this thick accent.
Hello. Yes, I'm trying to contact Substantial. I'm like, yeah.
Real funny, real funny. You calling from Japan. You want to sign me to a record deal. I was about to hang up on him.
Each one, teach one, reach on, Maryland, Cincinnati to the far east side. We just begun, spread the gospel, substantial Pase Rock, hip-hop apostles.
I was in the group 5Ds. I did all the cover design for our album. So the distribution company was like, yo, who does y'all covers? And I was like, oh, me. They were like, yo, we need an art director. You want the job? I was like, yeah. So I got this job in Boston working at a distribution company, Landspeed. My first week on the job, they were like, yo, this dude in Japan is like a huge 5Ds fan. He wants to fly you to Japan and have you rap on his tracks. And I was like, what?
Who was the producer from Japan that flew you out?
Nujabes.
Yo, this is FunkyDL. I'm representing London, UK, and right about now, I'm live and direct and in full effect in Tokyo, Japan, Shibuya.
Everybody know Nujabes? I met Nujabes a long time ago. Like I met Nujabes 1999.
Heard a ring ring, so I picked my telephone up. Who's this? Seba Family. Who? Call me Nujabes. Looking for a rapper for my beats. Thinking you the best.
Check this out. Check this out. Check this out. Check this out.
Peace. My name is Apani B Fly. My first trip when I went with Nujabes was really dope. Got to hang out with like my favorite cousin in Japan, and she's the reason I got there, which was funny. So she's in this town called Chiba. She's going to her local bar, and the bar owner had my record hanging on the wall. She's like, hey, that's my cousin. He's like, yeah, I would like to get her over here for a show. And I have a friend who makes beats, and he'd like to do some work with her probably, who was Nujabes.
So how did you first link up with Nujabes? Signed the group guy Steve, who was over the label. Had some relations with June. One of the tracks that I was on, made to June's ears. Sure enough, June called me.
2008, I released a single with Substantial. And at that time, Nujabes had started following me on MySpace, following like my blog and added each other on MySpace.
But how did he find all these international artists in the first place? Like, this is way before Apple Music and Spotify. Heck, this is even before LimeWire. So how did he do it?
You know, he was a record store owner, so he had a massive collection of his own, or he had access to a lot of records, he kind of had that advantage.
He had a crazy record collection. It kind of wasn't fair. He owned a record store. I can't compete with someone who owns a record store. Like, shit ain't fair. The apartment he was in actually had at least 2 rooms, and one of the rooms was solely for his records. And I'm talking about like at least 4 rows of these things. And meanwhile, he still has records in the studio area.
Really had a personal relationship with vinyl records. He really loved records.
Nujabes' love for records is what allowed him to discover all of these international artists. But what made Nujabes and his music so unique that these artists would fly all the way to Tokyo just to record some tracks?
I would definitely say his style is real, almost spiritual. You know what I mean? Like, he definitely had an approach that would really get to you on, on a soul level. That he put a lot of heart in everything that he did.
Like, he had a real passion and hunger for music.
So when I first got there, we recorded like 2 or 3 songs. He was excited immediately, but he wasn't completely happy with the mic. So in the middle of the session, he just stops and like, wait. Something's maybe not right. Maybe we should go. Yes, we should go to the store. And so we went to the shop, just stopped mid-session. Like, no, I don't like how this sounds. Let's go fix it. And he bought this massive mic, recorded 25 songs in a month in the studio on average 8 to 10 hours a day, maybe 5 days a week. First single came out, which was Lyrical Terrorist with L Universe, better known as Verbal. For those of you who don't know Verbal, he's actually a pop star in Japan. He's really big out there.
So, and the way I met Nujabes was before my first record for M-Flow came out, I was always going to his record store called Guinness Records. I was letting him hear my demo for M-Flow, and he was like, yo, you should come to my house and do a song. I was like, for real? I'm like, you produce? He was like, yeah, I'm starting to. So that's before Hydeout Productions started, like 1997 or 1998. I went to his place, and back then it was really different for a person to just have a setup at home with a bunch of records and just recording out of the house, because people were like, yo, you gotta go to a studio. But he was like, why? I could just record out of my living room.
When you talk about recording in the living room, that was Park Ave Studios is what he used to call it.
So we come in and there was like no booth. The microphone we set up like in the middle of the living room, not that far from the kitchen. It sounds like it was a low budget setup, but the stuff he was using was high quality.
And that's where we were, in Nujabes' living room.
I'm like, cool, that's so dope. So I went there, recorded. When I did, he was like, so, okay, we want to press some vinyl. I was like, what? That's so cool. We're going to put this out. Let's do it. And then he was like, so are you going to be verbal? And that's when I was like, well, I want to separate my imagery from what I was doing in Japan, because not to toot my own horns, but that was in the billboards of Japan. So I was like, Nujabes, I'm going to call myself L Universe. He was like, cool. He just wanted to put out good music. He didn't care.
Yeah. We made some amazing things together, but a lot of times we bump heads in the studio. So what we were going back and forth on was like how I ended part of that later verse, as nice as you wish you were, Rick Mike saw my signature. When I did that, Nujabes played it back. And he was like, I don't think it works, and he was really going in on me about like, yeah, I think you should do it again.
He was probably the hardest person that I've ever worked with, and it was because of the fact that we both had very different views on the process. We got along much better when we weren't working on music. This is gonna sound weird, but I prefer Jun over Nujabes. A lot of times what would happen, be hanging out at this place. We both loved the movie Memento. One of the jokes he would always make if I forgot something, he said, oh, Stan, I think you got Memento. And so when I think of him, I think about that stuff. And then in the middle of conversation, he just go grab a record. He throw that on, we vibe out for a couple minutes, then he throw on something a little older when he was looking for samples.
This is what made Nujabes' music so unique. It was his keen ear for sampling.
やっぱりその彼のサウンドって言ってもやっぱその彼特有のその音の紡ぎ方であってサンプルの仕方であってどこかやっぱ懐かしさであったりどこかなんか振り返るというか Now,
instead of me explaining what sampling is, it's probably just quicker if I show you how the song Lyrical Terrorist was made. Take a listen to this.
Flipping on the boombox, bad props, the ruggedness, lyrical terrorists.
Now, let's put it all together.
Hideout Pro, it's only the beginning. Ruggedness, lyrical terrorists.
That's sampling.
That's what the past 30 years of music has been. That's the major thread. See, 30 years ago, you had the first digital samplers, and they changed everything overnight. All of a sudden, artists could sample from anything and everything that came before them. Albums looted from decades of recorded music to create these sonic layered masterpieces. And they weren't sampling these records because they were too lazy to write their own music. They weren't sampling these records to cash in on the familiarity of the original stuff. They were sampling those records because they heard something in that music that spoke to them.
I just remember moments where like he'd find something that he knew he could use and he'd play it. Tell me what you think of this. A little sample come on, I'm just like, shit, whoa! The sample is so damn good, like you got a winner.
You see, what made Nujabes so unique wasn't the fact that he sampled a ton of records. He also sampled the sounds of the places he himself had lived in.
I would describe the music as serene, and I think Japan as a country, I would also describe the country as a very serene place, especially in Kamakura, where he was spending most of his time right by the ocean, and I think you can hear that influence to his music a lot. There's a lot, he got a few songs with water flowing through it, rain, and like just more natural elements. That seems to be the universal truth to the music of Nujabes.
In music, we take something that we love and we build on it.
He had like a very different taste than most hip-hop producers. I'm sure he studied your American hip-hop and American catalog of soul, funk, but he really dug like Brazilian music or the bossa vibe or like really abstract like jazz, from Japan, for example, that many American producers may not have sampled to that point.
The first time I met Nujabes, it was really kind of out the blue. He contacted me just through an email that he wanted to cut a 12-inch with me. And I remember just inviting him to like a meeting that I was going to have with a friend. So he came in his van, and that was like the first time I met him. We just sat in his van and would listen to some beats, and that was really the start. And I really liked his music. And eventually I stumbled upon the beat dedicated LuvSic Part 1, and I really, really wanted that beat for some reason. I contacted June, and he said that was taken by Pase Rock, but me and Pase, we already had a friendship going up. So I asked him, would you please allow me to have that beat? And also because I had done a favor for him, I did a single with his band 5Ds. So it was almost like an exchange. He was cool enough for me to just rap on that beat. And he was like, okay, sure, if you want it that bad, go ahead.
We gotta take you back to the first time you ever heard this song, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, LuvSic like a dog with canine sensitivity, developing a new theory, relativity, connecting the soul's rest in the captivity, positive life, sacrifice what it is to me.
When I wrote that song, LuvSic Part 1, I wanted to write something that was generic in theme, possibly, because it's a love song, but I wanted to put my own twist to it. Which is why it's reflected in the way the title is spelled. It's a song about being lovesick, therefore SIC is spelled in your own way. The next time he gave me a beat, it was right after 9/11 had happened. Back then, I just poured out everything that I had from watching the news and not being home. And so that's when I decided, okay, I like this song, I want to write to it, and I'm going to call it LuvSic Part 2. LuvSicシリーズで一番印象的だったのは、僕とNujabesと2人でツアー回るようなんで、ある場所で僕が勝手にLuvSicをパート2でサックス横で吹いたんですよ。そしたらすげえやばかったそれみたいな感じで。そっからLuvSicパート2を一緒にサックスで、アレンジしてやってみたりとか、そっから結構LuvSicその設定っていうか、僕の中ですごい広がったっていうイメージです。It wasn't really like an intention that I wanted to make it like a long series, it was just like part 1 and 2, then the rest is history, so to speak.
Now, the LuvSic series and Nujabes music in general was starting to gain popularity in Japan.
Even in Japan, like, he's getting respected, but he still wasn't huge. Most people did not know who Nujabes was.
But I mean, that all changed when Nujabes met the creators of Airing on American television network Adult Swim in 2001, Cowboy Bebop is a big reason why anime is still popular in the West today. People had never before seen sci-fi space cowboys and blues music, two seemingly unrelated genres, smashed together in such a way. But that was show director Shinichirō Watanabe's style.
基本的に自分のスタイルっていうのは異なるものをミックスする。
なんかその感覚って僕は昔 DJ という仕事をやっていて。
オールスクールテクノ DJ。
Yes。渡辺さんと初めて会った時にそういうこと言われて、僕は困惑よりこれって DJ みたいな感覚で。
まあカウボーイビバップだったらそういう宇宙ものとブルースみたいな。
だから常に作品との間にギャップがある音楽の方が面白いんじゃないかと思っています。サムライチャンプルーの時はこれは時代劇っていう江戸時代、すごい古い時代の話なんで、逆に一番新しい音楽ジャンルヒップホップにしたらいいんじゃないかと。したらそのギャップが面白いと思いました。
ジャベスはもうサムライチャンプルを作る時に一番最初にイメージしていたアーティストで。
So casually one day he just emailed me, hey, there's this late night animation happening on the Fuji channel in Japan. Would you like to throw on a verse for it? And I was like, sure. And really, the rest is history.
Samurai Champloo.
Samurai Champloo was Nujabes' big break, airing on close to 500,000 people would tune in every Saturday to watch this crazy mashup of samurais and hip-hop. Samurai Champloo was the gateway for a lot of folks outside of Japan to finally discover Nujabes' music.
And one day I get a call from my nephew watching this show, and I could have swore I saw Nujabes' name in the credit. I'm like, what? And so I look it up, and then I see it, and I watch a few episodes, and I'm like, first of all, this is amazing. And second of all, as I start to email Jun, I'm like, where were these beats when we were working on our stuff? Samurai Champloo comes along, people in the States start getting hip to Jun.
アメリカに住んでますけど、本当にいろんな国の人と触れ合って、今20歳ぐらいの子でももうすごいヌジャベスファンだってっていうのが本当にびっくりするぐらいあるんですよね。ヌジャベスっていうのは本当に一つの現象っていうか、得体の知れない現象になってて、今でもやっぱり驚いている自分がいるっていうのが本当に正直なところで。
Now all of a sudden people are coming to me like, dude, you did stuff with this guy. How does it feel like to get tapped by a legend?
But this newfound fame didn't come without some misattributions, especially if we're talking about the music on
Samurai Champloo.
A lot of times, Nujabes gets credit for almost all the music on the anime. Fat John, Force of Nature, and Sushi actually did most of the background music. But a lot of his stuff gets credited to Nujabes because Nujabes has a much higher profile. It was a misnomer.
Everyone thinks Nujabes did Home Sweet Home. It's not true. Nujabes did not produce that song. DJ Dextrine produced that song.
Although it was no fault of his own, Nujabes' newfound fame led to him getting credit for songs he never produced. But the hype train had already left the station, and all that was left for him to do was
Take it to the top. All right, Tokyo. Mata
それが終わってから、彼に話したんですけども、今まで日本で活動していたんですけど、サムライチャンプルーをやった後、すごく外国人からのリアクションが多くなって、そのことをとても喜んでいます。
This is my homeboy Nujabes. Nujabes Modal Soul Era release party.
My name's Nujabes. If you don't mind, we'd like to play something for you.
Context. 2005 is when this album came out. This was Modal Soul, and this was one of the many songs that I did with my brother Nujabes.
Light as a feather as I'm flowing through. Reading through the daily news. Present with the rubber band and totally news. Didn't mean to say either. I'm in the street never
So yeah, June passed away 2010, and nobody knew except for I think pretty much family until like a few weeks later. So after we found out, you know, it was really a lot of mixed emotions, because me personally, I knew him fairly well, but it wasn't really to a point where we would, you know, meet privately all that much. It was all through the music, and our bond through music was, you know, because of the fans, obviously, you know, it was really much larger than life. We had a bond together, but it was on the record. You know, I didn't really know much about his private life because I didn't spend time with him every day. But, you know, I really felt disappointed just to have that friendship part disappear.
Everything is quiet.
Yeah, till death do us part in a day. Comes out like clouds in the head, my son, my truth every.
Also, at the same time, I felt a huge responsibility that I had to carry his legacy on as the best I could, you know. I can't account for everything else that I did outside of our work together, but just even for the work that we did together, not just the LuvSic series, but like Battle Cry and all those other tracks that a lot of people seem to pick up over the years. We've been trying. Granted, it took a lot of time, but we finally put out 3 tracks that we're going to finish. I'm very proud of that because we didn't take any shortcuts. Every track was recorded at his studio. All the cuts, you know, we handpicked by vinyl, especially for 5 and 6, it was handpicked through his stash. We went through his records, picked the perfect sample, and it was recorded here.
I must tell you, you live beautifully. I must tell you, we live beautifully. I must tell you that we live beautifully. I must tell you, I must tell you.
I used to be with Hydeout in the late great Nujabes. Wherever I go, my models be great. Nujabes responsible for making sure that we stay super fresh locally and globally while they help me get these groceries.
So it's important to know that for the musicians who love what he does and are inspired by him, the way you honor his memory is not by emulating him and trying to do what he already has done. It's by like finding what inspires you and then trying to create something new out of that. And I think that's a better way to kind of honor him than to try to mimic him, because there's only going to be one Nujabes, just like there's only one of you.
There is a song for every emotion. Remember that. That's why we keep writing. That's why we keep singing. That's why we keep rapping.
And he was a legend, he was a genius, he was a friend, he was a dope producer, great musician. And when he passed away, it was so sad.
I'm happy to be celebrating you. I'm sad to be celebrating you and you're not here. You know, and I'm gonna cry. But you know, I'll see you one day.
Just thank you for everything. Thank you for all your talk. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to make beautiful music with you. And you know, you'll always be missed, not just by me, you'll be missed by my family, my friends, and the world. So, one love.
I was inspired as a friend, and to be able to have a personal connection with the music was inspirational to me. My whole verse is a message to Nujabes. It's a message, and this message directly would be free, and we'll all be thinking about you.
In part 6, you know, we discovered it, you know, after he passed, but he had already titled it Grand Finale.
I'm in a metaphorical goal in a metaphysical world. Now you got me daydreaming, sleeping in the curl. Like this.
まず元々ヌジャベスの F1 ユーロっていう曲で、シンゴ2がボーカルが入ってるんですけど、シンゴ2の方からラブシックの、スクラッチの方やってくんないかっていうことで、僕自身もすごいラブシックシリーズのファンで、この作品で、最後ということで、参加できて本当光栄です。やっぱりずっと引き継がれていくものだと思うし、はい。
Yo, the beat don't stop till I finish the song. Nujabes,
What you want is 5 D's, D's, and G's among other things. Watch what these brothers bring, might make your mother sing. Jump up with joy, missing the floor, making your ears sore. And I'm gonna start with that. But what I wanna say is this: we're all here celebrating Nujabes' life. Don't be sad, he's in a spiritual state. Listen to the music, live through the music.
After 6 comes 7 and 8. Access code to the pearly gates that say empty way. And speak of fate, every dollar did I play for my mate. I see the angels draw the drapes over the earthscape where the wine is the spirit of grapes. Gotta finish what we started, so I cut the tape. As the Rex will stay and rotate.
So let us just